or something that Kafka would have hated.
It's true.
This is pardonable, I think. I mean, one can't probably avoid it, but if you describe a person as an Orwellian, you pay them a compliment.
Yeah.
If you describe a situation as Orwellian, you're describing something that's very dark.
Hellish.
Possibly, and here's where the uses of pessimism may come in, possibly so dark as to be without a dawn. I think it may have been Lyle Trilling, at any rate it was one of his contemporaries, who said of 1984 that the power of it was to completely foreclose any hope by the end. There's nothing Winston Smith can possibly do. He's been totally broken. Not just broken, he's been recruited. He loves Big Brother. There's the last man in Europe, the last dissident, has been tamed. The argument that many people made at the time, Isaac Deutscher, who I otherwise admire, made this case. So this is a situation that encourages people to despair. It teaches people that there's nothing you can do. It's reactionary in that sense. Others, I think, a bit more alive to it. Well, I think Deutscher meant it genuinely.
Yeah.
Others, a little more alive to what Orwell was trying to do, said no, because if you can imagine it being that bad, you can in fact imagine not overcoming it, but preventing it.
Yeah. It was a klaxon.
Don't think yourself into Winston Smith's situation. Think of what you can do to stop yourself from collaborating and becoming someone in that situation. And in that respect, we can say that the book is genuinely historic because the impact that it had in the enslaved countries of the Soviet sphere among not just intellectuals, but people who later became leaders of independent trade unions and so forth, cannot be overstated.
And how do we know that?
I've met people in Czechoslovakia, as it then was, the Czech and Slovak lands, in Poland, in East Germany, who were enormously affected by reading Animal Farm and or 1984 in various Samizdat editions. Orwell was very insistent that he would allow these books to be translated and distributed originally in Ukrainian. In fact, the only intro he wrote to 1984 was for a pirate Ukrainian edition produced by a group of rank-and-file Ukrainian socialists who'd been prisoners of war and were in a displaced persons camp in 1945. So you can have the book, you can have the copyright. Here's my introduction. Here's why the book is not anti-socialist, but it's anti-Stalin. Here's why it's on the side of freedom. It's not Cold War propaganda. It doesn't come from a supporter of British imperialism. Important in itself, by the way, I think. Oh. Well, this example was followed by pirate editions in every known language, and I'm willing to bet you that something will happen in my lifetime and yours. 1984 is not yet available in Chinese, or not in mainland China, but it will. I predict there will be an edition of it.
No doubt.
And Animal Farm has been produced as a musical in Beijing. I'd love to see. I have not attended a performance. It is not yet available, except that any Chinese person would now know how to get hold of some version of it on the internet. And there will be a North Korean version.
Yes,
there will, because no one has ever been able to go to North Korea, as I have. Myself, I'm one of the few, without surveying the most perfected, hideous version of totalitarianism that still survives, or that may ever have been attempted, without immediately having recourse to a quotation from 1984. It's impossible to see it or even think about it without thinking about Orwell. This is an achievement of quite a high order. It means that the relevance of the book will go on, and it possibly become even more acute. And I'll add one more thing, which is that Animal Farm is banned by the Ministry of Education in almost every Islamic country. In some cases, because of its mention of pigs, but not all mentions of pigs are forbidden by Islam. Pigs can be understood, and after all, pigs are not represented exactly in a heroic light in Animal Farm. No, it's very clear, and it was made very clear indeed by the prohibition on it in Iran, that it is banned as a satire upon absolutism. It's banned in the same way as the Shah of Iran didn't like having public performances of Macbeth. So again, it has, in these attacks upon itself, it earns the compliments that are only accrued by great literature.
You've mentioned in passing something you talk about at length in the book, which is the left's reaction to Orwell. And I think the way you put it is, it's a little strange that an anti-imperialist, a deep defender of the working class, and a strong egalitarian should be almost caricatured when talked about by the left. So talk about why that is. You've sort of mentioned in passing already, but talk about it in more detail.
There's a deadly trapdoor built into a large floor of the left mentality. If I haven't mixed the metaphor by phrasing it like that, I don't think I have. I mean, it's this, that it's quite right to value solidarity. It's quite right to value fraternity and all of these things that keep the movement together in hard times. But what this can undervalue or even treat with suspicion is the person who thinks for himself or herself. Can be suspected of being a traitor, a blackleg, someone who lets down the front of solidarity, the fraternity that's necessary in a war. And,
or worse, gives comfort to the other side.
In fact, the vulgar phrase for this, which isn't a leftist phrase actually, it's a sort of phrase that any public school or regimental or team spirit a conservative would recognize too. You know, you don't give aid and comfort to the enemy, you don't spread alarm and despondency among your own side. It's a tribal feeling rather than a leftist one, but it's peculiar to the left in that it can be like being a strikebreaker or someone who is a traitor. And
a scab, by the way, is not a euphemism.
No, scab is not indeed, by no means, nor in a way is blackleg or scab herder or any of the other equivalent terms. And this has another element that's, I would say, a leftist one in its way, which is a form of leveling rather than a form of egalitarianism, but that says that people who do such things do so for the lowest motive. That once you've found the lowest motive for someone breaking ranks, you've probably found the correct one, in other words. So that in my own lifetime I met Claude Cockburn, who was a very, very important journalist on the left in the 30s and subsequently, until his death actually, in the early 80s. I was considered a very admirable man despite his long, long membership in the Communist Party. And he was indeed a very brave and very humorous and very original writer, but he believed that Orwell and those like him in Spain who had criticized the Popular Front and the Soviet role in it were consciously doing the work of Hitler.
Consciously that's the key part.
That it was not that their work, as it were, objectively had the your readers, your viewers, I should say, your listeners, your audience can't see me doing my air quotes, but objectively doing the work of the other side, but no, we're knowingly doing the work of the other side.
So an anti-communist is pro-fascist, almost, well, by definition.
Well, by a certain metric, it must be so. And that's what the Daily Worker said. And they spread all kinds of other communist-inspired slanders against all of them, having the effect of attacking his motives, his character. Anything rather than engage with, and made very spirited and quite successful attempts to make sure that his work from Spain did not see print. It didn't get printed in the New Statesman, which had a very strong fellow travelling wing at the time. It was the leading left cultural magazine in Britain. I used to work for it myself in the 30s. It was, you could say it had the combined effect in Britain and British English-speaking world of the New Republic and the Nation combined. they were strong enough to make sure that he never got published.